cry at that pasuk. The Maharsha explains it, the word tzara, because as if Hashem is like constrained. So here he can split the sea. He has plenty of room to go through. So also it's the Pesach Shel Micha. That was the point. Here was worse. Pesach at least was in the Yamsuf, but this is even worse.
Can you get to Pesach Shel Micha shortly?
That's why he mentions that. I thought of it as well. Maharsha makes the point. Ammon, related to his mother, because the word im is in there, and the mem can become a nun. So imam, because his own mother. The rem is in his character.
Yeah. There was something I was thinking about, I can't remember what it was, about why he was crying when you were by that pasuk. Oh, I was thinking about it like this. He's saying that on the one hand Hashem is great enough to be able to handle the waves, right? So on the other hand, the idol becomes a competition, as it were. So what that really indicates to you is that on the one hand, perhaps what it means is, on the one hand, you see clearly that Hashem transcends all of reality. Right? Waves come, waves don't come, ocean, yes, no, it doesn't make a difference because he transcends all reality. And yet for some reason, notwithstanding the fact that Hashem transcends all of reality, the fact that a Yid engages in idol worship becomes a competition to Hashem, which on the surface seems like a contradiction. If Hashem transcends him, what's the difference? In other words, if you're saying it's bad for the Jew down here to engage in idol worship because he's got split fidelity, okay? But you're saying from Hashem's perspective, it sounds like Hashem's bothered by what a Jew is doing or not doing. Hashem transcends all of it. And maybe that's why he was crying, because it indicates to you actually in a kind of in an ironic twist, it teaches you the degree of love Hashem has for the Jew. That notwithstanding the fact that it transcends all of these things and therefore we can handle the waves coming and going and it makes no difference, yet Hashem chose that the Yid's behavior bothers him, as it were. So the fact that from Hashem's perspective the Jew's infidelity hurts, as it were, that there's no place under the blanket for both Hashem and an idol, becomes a tzara, becomes a source of pain for Hashem, indicates to you how much the Jew means to Hashem. And that notwithstanding that he transcends all of reality, he's got oceans coming and going, yet it still bothers him how a Jew behaves. So it tells you how much a Jew matters to Hashem, in a way. Anyway. That's right. Notwithstanding all of the pasuk is Haloi Ach Esav Yaakov, is not Yaakov a brother to Esav, meaning to say they're both equal. What's the difference? Yaakov, Esav, behave, don't behave. It's all the same. As Hashem transcends. But just the pasuk continues, Haloi Yaakov Vehevai, nonetheless I love Yaakov, and the opposite for Esav. Notwithstanding the fact that it's true they're both brothers, and therefore from the transcendent view of Hashem, what's the difference? If you behave like Yaakov, you behave like Esav, what's the difference? But nonetheless, Hashem shows that he's going to love Yaakov. It's a similar thing here. Even though kindness can me'ayam, even though all of this world is nothingness to him, yet it matters to him how a Jew behaves and doesn't behave. And maybe that's the emotional element, perhaps. Okay, and that was regard to yesterday's Gemara. We are 2 days ago. We're Kuf Gimel on the base, 103b, and we are Ki Aser Yayakim, yeah. It's about a quarter from the top, from the bottom of the page. I'm sorry. The last word on the line is Yadei or La Yadei, and then you back up a few words, and it's Ki Asa. Ki Asa Yayakim Oma Kamai La Yadi. Have it? Kav Gimel Beis, yes, if you see it.
The last words on the line are what?
The last word on that ine is Yadi, and you back up a few words.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, and you back up a few.
I was going to the bottom, not to the top. Okay.
Back up a few words and you see Kiyasa. You have it there, Yosef?
I think so. You do?
Yeah. And then back up a few words and you'll see Kiyasa. Kiyasa.
Yeah, okay, I have trouble with this.
Kiyata. Okay. So we're going through different kings and how they progressively became more degenerate, to the point that Ammon is having relations with his mother just to prove a point, notwithstanding the fact that actual pleasure it doesn't derive, as we talked about last time. So the Gemara says like this: when the king Yehoiakim arrived, Amar, he said, "Kamai, my predecessors, they had no idea to anger God."
Klum is next one.
Sorry? To anger him. Klum on Tzichim. They had no idea to make Hashem angry. They thought they were all good at proving a point to Hashem, having a relationship with his sister, having a relationship with his mother. Nothing. Can you imagine what's he going to do? You can imagine how much worse can you get? How much more degenerate you can get. So it's interesting it's going to come.
One-upmanship here.
Yeah, exactly. One-upmanship. What's interesting is that what's going to come on the surface doesn't seem like it's worse. On the surface of it. But when we think about it more, we're going to see how at least to some degree, it proves a point that makes it even worse. Which connects to something we just talked about earlier. So it says like this: the people before me had no idea how to anger Hashem. All we need is His light. We don't need that. We have gold. Petroleum, like shining gold. Which we use. So we got our light from gold. Let God take His light. We don't need it. This is His one-upmanship. That we're gonna worship gold rather than Him. This is worse than be sleeping with one's mother. I don't know, but we're going to see maybe perhaps how it's worse, or in what degree, and from what angle it's worse. So Amrullah, his people told him, "You're saying you're rejecting God's light because you have gold, but is not silver and gold also God's?" Shneimar, as the verse reads, "Unto me is gold, unto me is silver," says God, the Lord of hosts. So what do you mean you're going to reject God and take gold? Gold's His. Amar lahem, so He told them, Kfar nasnu lanu, God gave it to us. Shneimar, as the verse reads, Hashemayim shemayim Hashem, the heavens is the heaven for God, v'arsan l'bnei adam, and earth He gave to the people. So this is very interesting. He's not denying God's existence, nor is He denying the truth of Torah. Proof? Because He's using Torah as a proof text to prove to them that gold is His. So what makes this so egregious? Where's the egregious? Okay, so He serves gold. Still exists. What it tells you is that idol worship is not necessarily mean that a person denies the truth of God, nor does it even mean that it denies the truth of God's revelation. The essence of idol worship is that God doesn't matter. Maybe He exists, but it doesn't matter. And in a way, that's worse.
He has his dalanamas, I have mine.
Exactly. So the previous generations, this guy was with his mother and he wanted to prove it to Hashem. So in fact, you might argue that person actually believed that Hashem is involved in his life. And precisely because Hashem was involved in his life, he wanted to prove that I don't care. Or fight Hashem, as it were. But Hashem is still in His territory, so to speak. But in this kind of language, he's saying Hashem is irrelevant. Hashem is irrelevant. It's just not relevant. Shemayim Hashem. And in that sense, it's the metaphor of gold, or the description of gold is very apropos. Because the same thing happens in a way, God forbid a person can, on Zeir Arbin, in a subtle way, a person can forget this when he's trying to acquire his own gold. Yeah, Hashem runs the big world, the big problems maybe. He's in Shemayim, maybe, if World War III was going to break out, Hashem maybe has to get involved. But how I make my living, Hashem is in the heavens and I'm on the earth, and I got to make my own gold.
In my business, I'm God.
Exactly. In my business, I'm God.
Right.
That's right. There's Hashem in the shoal. Right. But when it comes to Zav, it's I need His light to rule my life. The light of gold shows my life.
It's a guy who he's carving out in his life a separation.
That's correct.
There are separations. There are boundaries. I have my boundaries where I'm king, and he has his boundaries where he's king. We can live together like that.
That's right. And what's even worse is the way he uses, like what the Ramban calls nevel b'reshus Torah, which means he uses Torah's language to prove his point. Yeah. You see, look, Hashem is in the heavens. Right? Hashem doesn't care what I do. Look, He's in the heavens. He gave me the earth. Right? Which gets back.
If you understood what Hashem is saying, Hashem would agree with me. It's His. I'm quoting from Him.
Exactly.
You don't get it. I get it. That's what
exactly. Exactly. Which is directly contrary to what we were saying earlier, that Hashem is hurt, tzara, when there's infidelity in the Yid's life. It's the exact reverse of what we were talking about earlier. So that's perhaps what's so egregious here. Okay, yeah. Worshipping gold. Rava bar Mari. Rava asked or said to Rabbi bar Mari, why is Yehoiakim on the list of kings mentioned in our Mishnah who lose their share in the world to come? He seems to be worse than all of them, we just finished saying. Mishum Deksiv, of whom it says, meaning he's further proving the point that Yehoiakim should be someone who's on the list of those who lose their share in the world to come. Mishum Deksiv, because of him, Yehoiakim, it says, and there was more of the words of Yehoiakim and his disgustingness and his tayevus, is like his degeneracy, that's not a word, his degenerate behavior, which he has done, and that which is found on him. My what does it mean, that which is found on him? They found degeneracy on him. So Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Lezer are discussing this, what this verse means, and they each came to a similar conclusion. Chadamar one says, that he engraved the name of idol worship on his reproductive organ. As if to say, following along what we're talking about before, my progeny is not from God, it's from some other thing. To further explain this, when we say idol worship, as acknowledging God's existence, but saying that he abandoned the earth, that he's no longer involved, this is clearly explained in the Rambam. In the Rambam's introduction, by the way, today's the Rambam's Yartzeit, right? Today's Chof. Today's the 20th of Tevis, right?
Yeah, it's
so today's the Yartzeit of the Rambam.
Yeah.
So the Rambam clearly writes in the first chapter of the laws of idol worship, describing how idol worship evolved, and he describes it as, initially they believed in Hashem, but they said that God had created mediums, he created the sun and the moon so why bother God with everything? He's busy with macro stuff. If we need rain, we'll talk to the clouds, or some spiritual entity in charge of the clouds. So, in a sense, putting idol worship on his reproductive organ, he's basically saying that my progeny, my essential continuation, is abandoned by God. And there's some other force of nature, some force of spiritual whatever, that I'm engaged with to some degree, that I control, that I worship. But not, God abandoned this whole business. That's one version of what it means that they found on him. They found idol worship literally engraved on him. The Chad Amar, and the other one said, this is Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Lezer discussing this verse, and the other one said, doesn't say who said what, but the other one said, not that he put the name of an idol worship, of idol on his reproductive organ, but he put the name of God on it. The inference is clear. Okay, so all of this to say, this is Rava asking Rabbi bar Mari, given this, why isn't he on the list of kings who lose their share in the world to come? Amar le, so Rabbi bar Mari said to Ravi, but Malachim, with respect to the list of kings that are on the list, or not on the list, lo shamaiti. I haven't heard an explanation as to why these 3 kings and not others. But Behadyotis, the Mishnah says that there are 4 commoners who lost their share in the world to come. Shamaiti, that I did hear. Why there are others who seemingly should have been on the list who are not on the list. Specifically, why did the Mishnah not include Micha? Who's Micha? Micha is a person who carried an idol, which is important actually, as we'll see soon. He carried a pesel, he carried an idol from Egypt through the Yam Suf splitting of the sea, all the way into the land of Israel. Which means even during the time of the great revelation of Hashem, in his pocket, he's still got a place that's separate from Hashem, even in this great revelation, the creation of Yom Kippur. Yeah. Even in the divine revelation, he's walking through the sea with the greatest revelation, like the Gemara says that what a common maidservant saw at the moment of the splitting of the sea, the revelation, greater than all the prophets, including the prophet Yecheskel, right? That's the specific comparison. So he's walking through there, and he has a little idol in his pocket. Later, this is in the beginning of Shoftim, he whole long story, but basically he builds a he builds a temple to serve idols, and it becomes very popular. This is Micha. So, says Rabbi Bar Mari to Rava, I don't know why the list of kings is limited to those three, but the list of 4 commoners who lost Hashem in the world to come, I do know why Micha is not on that list. Namely, Mipnei Shapitim Mitzoyel Oivedrachim, because Micha was hospitable. And all travelers would stop by to enjoy his food, which is partially why he was successful in getting people to come to his idol worshipping house, because he was open and generous and offering people food. So notwithstanding the fact that this was
Kiddush Club.
and so notwithstanding all the terrible behavior, that alone was enough to give him the world to come. Shenemar, as the verse reads, all those who passed through of the Levites came to stop by his house. The Levites were very involved. He recruited some Levim to promote his temple for idol worship, and it was all done by feeding people. And thus, because he was such a gracious host, he got a share in the world to come. Isn't that amazing?
It's similar to Achab, the same idea that Mali had not killed Nabot, he would have
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. And later the Gemara is actually going to take us to talking about the greatness of feeding other people in all kinds of different fashions, how it's very potent and therefore has the power to accomplish amazing things, but also has the power of destruction, as we shall learn, or the lack thereof has the power of destruction. Okay, so the pasuk says like this. A few more lines here. Pasuk reads, "V'aver bayam tzara, v'hika b'yam galim." It's actually talking about like the traveling of idol worship, and that it came through the sea. V'aver bayam tzara came through the sea, and it broke through the waves of the ocean. It's a poetic way of saying that it came through the ocean. Amar Rabbi Yochanan says that Perek Chelek Micha, this is a reference to the idol of Micha, of whom we said before, he brought his idol from Egypt all the way through the ocean, even with the revelation and the beautiful encounters he had with Hashem. He still had in his pocket to reserve the space. That's me, say it. Reserve the space empty of God. Reserve the space for an idol. Like Michael was saying earlier, I have a relationship with Hashem, but in my business I worship the dollar. So even with all the great revelations, a person can still have a small place in his pocket, literally pocket and metaphorically pocket in terms of a person's parnasa, where he's void of Hashem. There's an idol. And there's one more line about Micha which adds to this, which is a very interesting thing and requires some thought as to what the Gemara wants to tell us with this. Tanya Rabbi Nosson Omer. We've been taught in the Mishnah, H text, Rabbi Nosson says, Migrav, from the location called Grav, which is the location of Micha's house of idol worship. His temple for idol worship is located in a place called Grav. So it says Rabbi Nosson, from Grav, Lishila, to Shiloh, the town of Shiloh, which is where the temple stood, the temporary temple, which stood for almost 800 years.
360.
No, 800 years is from when Moshe built the temple until it's basic. But for a large chunk of it, 800 years, 300 and something years, it's a long time, where the tabernacle, the Mishkan, was in Shiloh before it went to its permanent home in Yerushalayim. So Shiloh is the epicenter of serving Hashem. So the distance from Grav, where Micha had his idol worship, his popular idol worship, and Shiloh was Gimel Milin, 3 mil, which is a little over 2 kilometers or something. It's not very far. And the smoke that would emerge from the altar in Shiloh, in the home of divine worship, and the smoke that emerged from the house of idol worship of Micha, misarvin zebazeh, would mix with each other. That's how close they were. So when it's a scent, they would mix. Obviously we're speaking literally here, but obviously there's a message and metaphor here as well, which requires some thought. It could be something of a reference to the idea that even when a person serves Hashem, he does mitzvahs, but if a lot of his ego is mixed in there, So there's a kind of idol mixed into his worship of Hashem as well. Maybe it's a reference to something like that. If the notion of an idol, as we've been describing here, is a place where I say, I exist here, rather than Hashem, like we're describing in business, a person says, I have a relationship with Hashem, but in business, I'm God. The same thing, unfortunately, could happen with mitzvahs. A person could be serving Hashem, he's doing mitzvahs, and mixed into his motivation for his doing mitzvahs, there's a sense of his own ego. So even in his mitzvahs, there's a kind of idol. Maybe that's what's being referenced here. Maybe that's the encoded message of the smoke of the service of Hashem and the smoke of the service of Micha being mixed together. And it says the Gemara like this: God wanted to, the angels wanted to rid themselves of Micha. That's it. Get rid of this. Not only does Micha have an idol, but he's ruining that which ascends to you. The angels say to God, let's get rid of him. God tells the angels, thank you for defending my honor, but leave him alone. Why? Because he has food available to travelers, because he's a gracious host. Which in a way means something like this: getting rid of one's ego is a very good thing, but not at the cost of helping other people. Meaning like this: a person might say, there's a famous story of, I think it was a little Perek Chelek, I could be getting the name wrong, but it was during, talking about the early 19th century, early 1800s, where Jews lived in like the Pale settlements. And the Mitler, the second Chabad Rebbe, organized with the Russian government that the Jews should have a lot of land to farm. It's a whole operation. And one of the things the second Chabad Rebbe would do, Mitler would send some of his Chassidim who are articulate and good teachers to go from town to town, first of all to raise money for Eretz Yisrael and for other projects. And likewise, these people, as they collect money, would also teach Chassidus. So the story goes that one of these Chassidim were going around teaching Chassidus, inspiring these people as he was traveling through these little villages. He came to the Rebbe and said, Rebbe, he said in Yiddish, I feel like a tzibala, I feel like an onion. Meaning to say, the ego is getting to me. People are praising me for my skills and my oratory skills and things. So the ego is getting to my head. I want to... Mitler tells him, be an onion, but you don't deny the people chassidus. In other words, if a person wants to fight his own ego, wants to fight his own idol, good. But don't stop helping others because you're saying it's going to get your ego. So a guy's going to say, I don't want to give tzedakah. You know why I don't want to give tzedakah? Because it makes me feel too egotistical. Now you just ruined it. So that's what Hashem is saying. They want to get rid of Micha. There's an idol. It's mixed in with the mitzvahs. There's ego here. Get rid of it. Says Hashem, 1 second. Not at the cost of feeding other people. I'm not going to be a nice person because it's making me feel egotistical. So the other guy has to suffer because you're worried about your ego. That's not the way it goes. So you deal with your ego, but not chas v'shalom at the expense of somebody else. And I think that's perhaps the embedded code of the fact that Hashem is saying, keep his ego, keep his idol mixed into the service of Hashem, so long as he's feeding other people.
Also, Malamed Chus on people who are not observant in Miskamora, they do acts of chesed. Especially Jews that have been in America in the past, especially they give a lot for tzedakah, yeshivas, Eretz Yisrael. They weren't observant, but that might be enough to keep them going.
Which lends credence to this idea that there are those, and look, there are different views, but there are those who have the view that they don't want to take money from someone who's not.
That's right.
And it's a different view, and that was reverse, and not just because you want the money to support Torah, but everyone would say, why would you deny that person the opportunity he has to serve Hashem through his money? You deny it from him? Why would you do that? And they would say that they would tell fundraisers that it's not, when you're fundraising, it's not just good for you and your mosid. It's good for the person giving. It's good for the person giving. And he doesn't necessarily know, even if he's not aware of the fact that the best thing for him and for his money is that he gives it to tzedakah, to support Torah, to support his fellow Jew. And he may not know that, but it doesn't change the fact that it is good for him. And therefore, at times, even if you need to be strong in your request for money, then so be it. So here comes Micha, idol worship. The smoke is mixed into the service of Hashem. And yet Hashem says, no, keep him because he feeds other people. It's quite strong. If this lends itself to a story of the famous concubine in Giva, and the fight and the war that ensued between the tribe of Ephraim and the rest of the Jewish people, Binyamin, I'm sorry, and close to extinction.
Yeah, very tragic.
A very tragic episode in Tanakh, and that, God willing, coming on Monday after Shabbos. A wonderful day, buddy. Wonderful and good Never Shabbos.
Yeah.